Let's go! Oop, into the theater.
Oh, duh, the Temple of Artemis.
Ah.
Wait a minute. This one says the Mausoleum of Masolos is one of them. Instead of the Great Library. This is the Mausoleum of Masolos. I mean, don't get me wrong, I heard that was super cool. So big that that's Masolos is where we get the word mausoleum.
The various kinds of ships used by the Greeks could be divided into two main types, ships of war and ships of burden. The latter was not designed for quick movement or rapid sailing, but to carry the greatest possible quantity of goods. Their structure was therefore bulky, their bottom round, and although they were not without rowers, the chief means by which they would propel were their sails. The most common ships of war were triremes. This warship was an example of ancient engineering at its highest level. The trireme derived its name from the 3 rows of oars, with 1 man per oar. They were very fast and maneuverable, which gave them a critical advantage in the close-quarter battles that were typical of ancient naval engagements. The triremes could move fast under sail, reaching maximum speeds of perhaps 14 knots under the most favorable weather conditions, while their speed without the sails was probably around 8 knots. They'd also become waterlogged if left in the sea for too long. To prevent this from happening, ships would have to be pulled from the water and kept and maintained in ship sheds. These were buildings built on limestone bedrock. They incorporated an inclined slipway, which the triremes were normally hauled up on when not at sea. The remains of Azia ship sheds at the Athenian port of Piraeus often offer useful archaeological evidence about triremes' maximum dimensions, about 115 to 120 feet long, 16 feet wide, and about 8.5 feet tall above the waterline. As for the order of the rowers and their positioning, valuable information could be extracted by the famous Lenormand relief, which showed the middle of a trireme with 3 clear levels of oars coming out at different angles. The trireme was first used in Greece during the 6th century BCE by the tyrant of Corinth, Periander, and then by Polycrates, the tyrant of Samos. Lots of tyrants.
Well, yeah, so in ancient Greek, a tyrant was like a demagogue. Okay, it was someone who actually had the support of the people, normally overthrew whoever was in charge, and installed their own government. We call tyrants bad people now because the old government tried to defame the tyrants and make them seem like bad people.
It became the dominant warship type of the Eastern Mediterranean, playing a vital role in the Greco-Persian Wars, the creation of the Athenian Maritime Empire, and its downfall in the Peloponnesian War. Let's learn about some ships.
I do like ships. Ships cool. Boats. I like boats.
The Achaean banner appropriately depicts a trireme, since the region includes Petrae, which served as a naval base for the Spartans during the Peloponnesian War. The trireme was the most famous Greek ship. It was first built in Corinth in the 7th century BCE and became an important warship for centuries. A fleet of triremes defeated the Persians in Salamis. Ships are a common image in iconography. They're present on vases and also on coins, with most of them depicting only the prow, like this bronze coin from Megaris.
Want to go on a boat?
Look at that frame. The ram, first naval weapon. The offensive weapon of triremes was the ram, and bolos. The objective of all naval tactics was to bring the ram to bear on the enemy's flank or quarter. The ram was made of bronze and attached to a protruding plank at the front of the ship. The ram was a warship's most expensive piece of equipment, but luckily, it could be salvaged and reused when the ship was broken up. The ram was located at the forward tip of the keel. This area was heavily armored and built up to a sharp point with 3 chisel-like blades just above the water level. Building a ram required a high level of metallurgy expertise and complicated foundry facilities, as they were cast in one single huge piece. The ram's tip flared into fins rather than combining to a point in order to prevent it from getting wedged into the hull of its opponent, and the timbers that the bronze casing covered were carefully designed to distribute the shock of impact over the entire length of the light hull. The ram could smash a hole in an enemy vessel and therefore cripple it, but could not literally sink it. The shape of the ram was designed to cause maximum damage without penetrating the hull too far and make it difficult for the attacking vessels to back off. The prow, with its ram and heavy buildup of timber, was both the offensive weapon and the best protected area of the ship. The stern and sides were its vulnerable quarters. As long as a warship kept its prow toward the enemy, it was poised for both offensive and defensive action. Its role was to disable other ships in battle. The Athenians in particular were very adept at maneuvering their ships to utilize this weapon effectively. Miltos is a type of red, fine-grained ochre made up of red iron oxides often mixed with earth, sand, clay, wax, resin, or other impurities, creating a reddish pitch. It played a vital role in waterproofing and ship maintenance due to its astringent binding and drying properties. Its use is attested to in Mycenaean clay tablets inscribed in the script known as Linear B and dated from the 2nd millennium BCE. Specifically, by the classical period, Miltos from Chia was prized in Athens due to its effectiveness in the maintenance of ships, protecting the hull from rot and infestation. The high lead levels meant that the powder, once mixed into an organic medium, would make a very effective anti-fouling agent, preventing the growth of bacteria colonies on vessels' hulls that could slow the ship down. In this way, applying lead-rich Miltos paint mixed with pitch to the hull of a ship could inhibit biotic growth and prevent fouling. The prow of a trireme was often decorated to look like the head of an animal, with the ram as its snout. Aeschylus called the triremes the dark-eyed ships. The eye was a regular decoration for the triremes. It was made from a piece of polished marble, then shaped and painted to resemble an eye. Sometimes oculi would be rather large and, if not painted, were an inlaid decoration occasionally made of expensive materials. Seafarers attached oculi to their ship because they looked upon their vessel as a living entity that needed eyes to find its way. Black warships with red or purple painted bows and large dark blue enamel oculi seen sailing on the dark seas would have had a powerful effect on any observer, especially enemy forces. That's why ships have eyes. That's another one down. Really, you just have Kephallonia and Kythera.
Time to go back home.
Let's go home. I'm coming home, coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home.
Malaria.
First leap of faith.
There aren't that many opportunities to do leaps of faith. Every once in a while when you dive in the water, and then off of the,
Synchronization points.
yeah.
But
'Cause
that,
there aren't many hay bales in these stocking centers.
well, I always figured Leap of Faith kind of, to me anyway, were always specifically to synchronization points anyway. Although, of course, in early games, anytime you had a hay bale below you, you could always jump into
Yeah.
it.
Anytime there were pigeons on the edge of a roof, you
Yep.
could do it. Don't mind me, wolf.
Don't mind me, just passing through.
That's
You
the
know
one.
the drill. Pitch and timber were the main materials used to create triremes. The pitch was produced from various trees and was extracted by heat. The pitch and wax were customarily applied, either successfully or as a mixture, to the wetted surface of the ship's hull, giving the vessel its speed potential as well as its water tightness and protection from sea microorganisms. The seams of newly built warships, as well as older ships under maintenance, were chalked with flax soaked in pitch. It seemed likely that a new coat of pitch was put on before each new sailing. Although pitch was used generously on the triremes' hulls, they seem to have leaked water into the bilges fairly quickly. This is why ships had to be beached and dried out. The emphasis of lightness for the hull timber was obviously a prime consideration in its overall design. For lightness combined with strength, a trireme's timber was mostly made of soft wood such as pine and fir, but the keel was made of oak for extra strength. Masts were made of fir, one of the tallest and straightest trees, while carefully prepared rough, young fir trees ensured that the grain of the wood was aligned along the shafts, making the oars strong for their weight. For the inner part of the ships, arch and plane were also used because they are lightweight, while the stem posts adjoining the breastwork and the bow timbers were made of ash, mulberry, and elm. One result of using soft woods was that the trireme hull tended to soak up water. The hulls not only became waterlogged and leaky, but they also suffered from the scourge of wooden ships, the marine borer. Consequently, all triremes were beached and carried out of the water as often as possible to dry and clear the hull. Did I really have to go underwater to see this?
Yep.
It is archaeologically attested that systematic reuse of wood from old ships was practiced throughout antiquity. When triremes were sunk during a sea battle, combatants went to great lengths and took heavy risks to recover the wreck. Sometimes vessels were towed home as prizes, and after being repaired, equipped, and renamed, they became part of the enemy navy. In addition, older triremes were used as service vessels. One was the soldier vessel, a troop transport. There were also the horse transport, made out of old triremes by removing the two lower levels of seats and converting the space into stalls for 30 horses. Cool. No, that's in Sparta.
Mount Olympia. Mount Parnassus. Mount Everest.
Everest isn't in Greece.
What do you know about geography? I will have you know that Alexander walked all the way over to However, you didn't get very far into it. Nice,
Alexis, what are you doing?
What you doing over there, bro?
Get down.
Yeet.
Poof. Odysseus and Polyphemus. On his way back home, Odysseus found himself on the island of the Cyclops, giants that have one single eye on the center of their forehead. Odysseus reached the island and entered a cave with his companions. They were so hungry they began to drink and eat everything in sight. When a Cyclops named Polyphemus returned to the cave with his flock, he blocked the entrance with an enormous rock and began to eat the men. Trapped, Odysseus introduced himself as simply Nobody and offered wine to the confused Cyclops. Once the giant was drunkenly asleep, Odysseus blinded him with a burning wooden stake. The next day, Odysseus and his men escaped the cave hidden under the bellies of animals, while the blinded Polyphemus shouted to his fellow Cyclopses that he was blinded by nobody. Pegasus was the mythical winged horse bred by the dead Medusa after Perseus killed her. Bellerophon captured the animal while it drank water from a well. Pegasus helped Bellerophon in fighting and killing Chimera in Lycia. Chimera was a monster that had the body of a goat, the head of a lion, and the tail of a snake. Bellerophon attacked her from the sky and thought of placing a block of lead on the tip of his spear. He threw the spear, aiming for the neck of the fire-breathing monster, and the heat of the fire made the lead melt, asphyxiating her. Bellerophon returned victorious, but several quests followed that would leave him blind and miserable.
It happens, okay?
Sammy!
Scylla.
Scylla was a mythological female sea monster that was placed opposite Charybdis in a very narrow passage of water, thought to be the channel of Messenia. The mention of Scylla is first seen in the Odyssey, when Odysseus and his companions had to travel the channel and found themselves between two monsters. Circe advised Odysseus to sail at full speed, but closest to Scylla. Charybdis was more dangerous and would sink the entire ship. Odysseus followed this advice, and as they passed by, Scylla devoured 6 of his men. They quickly escaped and managed to pass through with no further losses. The sirens were beautiful but deadly creatures that lived on a rocky island. Their song was so enchanting, sailors who heard their singing fell to the rocks. Sirens were half women, half birds, or at least that was how they were represented in Greek art. They were usually depicted playing musical instruments such as harps. In the Odyssey, Odysseus was very curious to listen to them, so Circe the witch told him how he would enjoy their song without danger. Odysseus had his sailors plug their ears with beeswax and tie him to the pole of his ship. When they passed near the sirens, Odysseus was mesmerized by the song. He begged his sailors to release him, but they couldn't hear him. This trick saved his life and the lives of his companions. He just wanted to hear their music.
Oh, I just love this picture right here, and this guy's like, what you doing?
I recognize that statue. Typhon was an extremely dangerous monster in Greek mythology. A giant serpent-like creature with 100 heads, fearful eyes, and terrible voices. Typhon was either the son of Gaia and Tartaros, or of Hera, or of Kronos. At some point, Typhon challenged Zeus in order to overthrow him and take his place. The battle between them was desperate, but Zeus managed to win with the aid of his powerful thunderbolts. After losing to Zeus, what happened to Typhon differs depending on the account. He was either thrown to Tartarus, the deep abyss, or buried under either Mount Etna or under the volcanic island Ischia. Zeus, on the other hand, became the legitimate ruler of the gods. I found your fleece. Jason was the rightful king of Iolcos in Thessaly, though the position was occupied by King Peleus. When Jason appeared in front of Peleus and asked to return to the throne, Peleus told him that he should bring him the golden fleece. This is the fleece of the golden ram held in Colchis. Jason set out on this quest with his crew, the Argonauts. After several adventures, they arrived in Colchis to claim the fleece. While there, Jason fell in love with the witch Medea, daughter of Aeetes, the king of Colchis. Medea helped Jason in the quest her father required, and her potion lulled the giant snake that was protecting the golden fleece to sleep. Once he held the fleece tightly in hand, Jason began his journey back home with Medea at his side.
A lot of tragedy happened.
Yeah. Let's go, Phobos. Yep. Oh, this is my house, I think. See, I forgot to pay my bills. I never really finished that fence. I see the roof needs repairs. We first meet Cassandra in her home on Kephallonia. She's a mercenary, hardened and scarred by her experiences. When designing her features, the team wanted her to look strong and vibrant. Bringing such a character to life includes the smallest of details. We had to create a false reflection in her eyes to ensure she looked alive. She needed to look great in every angle. Yeah, what about Alexios?
He's on the other side of that.
Yeah, well, it's Kephallonia. Everything kind of sucks. The development team kept the siblings as close as possible in look and feel, with a few distinctions. Alexios has a different body and gait. He's larger and sports dark brown dreadlocks, but they share the same coloring and variations on the same outfits. Alexios and Cassandra fight with a sword, bow, or spear. The development team wanted to show proactive combat, wielding dual weapons with a focus on attack rather than defense. Early concept sketches of Alexios by Fred Rambone show different outfits and weapons, from bare-chested brawler to full Spartan warrior. That middle one looks almost like Thor, with the winged helmet. Kephallonia! I'm surprised we didn't have anything on Odysseus. I mean, like, his island home.
Yeah, well, guess what? This is how it's done. And it's like make fun of not highest guy.
Time to go to Kythera and finish this tour.
Athens, like, best
It belongs in a museum. Boom. Ancient pirates. You see Edward Kenway somehow show up on the horizon. Wait,
The
I
jackdaw.
think I'm a few centuries too early. What am I doing here?
They got cannons, dude. They will blow you.
Yeah. The jackdaw shows up, annihilates everybody. Hey, I'm just here for treasure. Kythera is the name of an island as well as a city. The strategic position of the island, just south of the Peloponnese, made it a target for the Athenians during the Peloponnesian War. Athens occupied it during most of the war and used it to support trade and to raid Laconia. Kythera's banner was inspired by its coinage. Both featured the dove, which is sacred to Aphrodite, who had a sanctuary in Kythera. According to mythology, this island was the goddess's birthplace. The dove. Let's go finish this tour. The art of speech. Aphrodite's retreat. Wood needed.
Yeah, remember when you chose the wrong sister? So,
Aphrodite, the goddess of love, was born from salty sea foam, and that is why she is sometimes called Haligenius, saltborn. The myth tells us that this foam came from the genitals of Uranus, the sky. They fell, yeah,
whatever, man.
they fell near the island of Kythera, and this is where and how Aphrodite was born. As you can see, salt and Aphrodite go together. Salt was associated with fertility and reproduction. For instance, Plutarch wrote in his Symposiacon that salt encourages remarkably generation. Salt encourages remarkably generation, reshaping Aristotle's notes in the history of animals that if they merely lick salt, mice get pregnant.
Aristotle? He's one crazy guy.
Aphrodite is sometimes shown holding a small salt bag in her hand, and those who attended the Aphrodisia, the sacred festival of Aphrodite, were required to bring and carry a salt bag to honor the salt-born goddess. Born from the salt of the sea.
I'm concerned about Aristotle. Wanna go sail a boat? I gotta say, I like the boat Assassin's Creed ones.
Uh-huh.
Not so much because I think boats are suitable for the assassin playstyle in this, but like it gives you something to funnel money into that
Yeah.
feels productive.
And you can upgrade your ship, you can change its appearance, you can get better crew and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's good for like Assassin's Creed.
No. And
But I think it's like just a good.
it's a fun gameplay.
Yeah,
Mechanic.
It makes me feel accomplished when I got a cool looking ship. You know?
Yeah, like
All this
you
crazy
put
stuff.
all this hard work into it and you kick butt.
Yeah. I got crap ton of cannons. Different
Different types of murex secrete different types of purple. The purple is influenced by the chemical composition of their sacs, but also their sex and size. Sunlight, temperature, humidity, and salinity can also influence the color's brightness, tone, and intensity. Dyers could obtain a greater variety of color shades by mixing different types of shellfish, controlling the fermentation process, or adding other ingredients such as honey or flour.
Alright, I think all that's left is
The tour. I wish you had achievements for getting like all the Discovery sites, but no. Discovery Tour has no achievements attached to it at all.
Who are we talking to?
Whereas Origins did.
Origins is stupid. Scrub game. But I can use this. I am Master Race. Let's go.
Hey, old buddy, give me my final tour, please. What do you know about dyes?
Hello, my friend. Welcome to Kithira, where clothes are dyed and noses are assaulted by disgusting smells. I think it smells terrible, and I can't wait to get out of here. The colors are pretty, though. This little island was where dyers brought all the color to Greek fashion through an intensely stinky procedure. This tour will reveal the steps it took for workers to brew the dye. Try not to step in any mollusk guts as you enjoy your visit. I promise I'll meet you at the end of your tour. See you soon, my friend.
So if we get sick of the smell here, can we go back to the perfume tour then?
In Greece, fabric and clothing were colored using natural dyes from shellfish, insects, and plants. Skilled craftsmen across the Greek world extracted dyes from these sources and combined them with other substances to create a variety of colors. The dyeing process supposedly produced incredibly pungent smells, and ancient writers would often comment on the stink in their works. Murex is the generic name for 3 species of mollusks that reside in the Mediterranean. The substance they secrete was used by craftsmen to create the most expensive dyes in the ancient world, the most famous of which was Tyrian purple. Fishing techniques varied depending on the type of mollusk. In shallow waters, fishermen could simply dive and catch the mollusks, but they set traps if the water was too deep. Being carnivorous, murex were often lured using dead animal flesh as bait. It was imperative that the mollusks be captured alive, as they only secreted the precious purple liquid needed for dyes upon death. The purple liquid that made up most dyes came from a gland in the murex. To collect it, workers would either crack open the mollusk's shell with a knife, or if it was smaller, crush it with a stone. Each mollusk only produced a small amount of liquid, and thousands of them were needed to produce even a gram of the substance. Because of this, captured mollusks were usually kept alive in seawater immersed baskets until enough had accumulated to produce a satisfactory amount of dye. The mollusk glands were mixed with salt and left to decompose for 3 days. Afterwards, the resulting mash was placed in a vat, where it boiled until it was thickened and reduced to 1/16 of its original volume. The dyers stirred this mixture and removed any impurities. This process produced the foul odor so reviled by ancient writers. Dyers checked the hue of the purple liquid by dipping in raw wool. The hue could be changed by adjusting the temperature of the liquid and by soaking the wool for different periods of time, with longer soaking producing deeper shades. The wool was dyed once before spinning and again before weaving to ensure it maintained its color. While Murex purple dyed wool easily, it did not adhere as well to other fabrics, such as linen. Most Greek garments were made from rectangular fabric that was rarely cut or sewn. They were normally folded around the body, with girdles, pins, and buttons. Dyeing served to give the garments a more unique style. Decorations were also widely used, and were either woven or painted on. They depicted things like animals, human figures, and mythological scenes. Textile manufacturing and trade was one of the most lucrative businesses in classical Athens. Textiles were made of either wool or linen, with wool being the most common. Women produced the garments worn in domestic life, although some men ran professional workshops that fulfilled the same need. Other textiles were made by slaves and laborers under the supervision of master weavers, fullers, and dyers. Clothes didn't just keep people warm. They were used as a way to communicate social identities like gender, status, and ethnicity. These could be expressed through garments and accessories, but also jewelry, hairstyles, perfumes, and cosmetics. Wealthy Greeks usually had garments of the highest quality, and all their accessories were decorated with gold, silver, or gemstones. Parasols and fans were also an important part of elite fashion, and were usually carried by accompanying slaves. The most common Greek garments were the peplos, the chiton, and the hymation. The peplos, typically worn by women, was a body-length cloth. It was folded back on itself and worn draped over the body and pinned over the shoulders. The chiton was a long garment with sleeves. Ankle-length chitones were normally worn by women, while men wore shorter versions of the garment. A hymation was a mantle that was worn over both the chiton and the peplos. Outside of daily life, there were also specialized clothes worn only in exceptional situations like weddings and religious ceremonies.
Good to see you again, my friend. I bet your clothes feel heavier now that you know how many mollusks were killed to dye them. But let's change the subject, yes? What else can I do for you? Then let's get right into it, starting with this question. Which purple dye was the most famous? Yes, the purple created from murex secretions was one of the most expensive and well-known dyes in the world. Here's another question. How did workers check the dye's hue? Correct! Workers dipped wool into the mixture to gauge the exact hue of the dye. Almost done, my friend. Just one final question. Which body-length garment was typically worn by women? Correct! A peplos was a body-length cloth that the woman draped over her body and pinned around her shoulders. I had no idea you were so knowledgeable about fashion, but look at you. I should have known from what you're wearing. There is nothing I'd rather do. Follow me.
Didn't ask, what am I wearing?
Which garment am I wearing? I don't know.
It's one of the examples.
Oh yeah, it's like, what garment? What garment are you wearing? Spartan armor.
I'm wearing a cuirass. I'm wearing a helmet. I'm wearing sleeves.
What about your underclothes? It's just a
Loin.
tunic and a loincloth.
I got a loincloth on, but
So, where am I going now if I completed all the 2 wars?
you're going to Abstergo.
We got to tour Abstergo now.
Probably going back to the
Or, they're probably either going back to the first or just a random one. Let's find out.
Amazing. You have now completed all available guided tours. Congratulations on your achievement and dedication to knowledge. We hope you have enjoyed your explorations into the rich history of ancient Greece. Even though you've done all the tours, there's still plenty left to see. There are hundreds of world stations to explore, mountains to climb, seas to swim, and sunsets to watch. Remember that you're welcome to return to guided tours at any time and replay your favorite ones. On behalf of the Assassin's Creed team, thanks for playing the Discovery Tour, and we hope to see you again soon.
It's to be you. Yeah, it's to see you.
The urban household.
You got Marie.
Hey, Mom.
You passed. Up, yeah, right there.
Cassandra and Alexios' mother, also known as the pirate Phoenix.
Hey, Mom. How we doing?
We did everything. We completed every tour. We visited every major site.
Killed all the cultists except 2.
Except one.
You struggled a little with this one.
The ghost.
Oh, and what about Deimos? You didn't kill Deimos.
Oh yeah, I didn't kill Demos either. So yeah, technically we didn't kill 2 of them, but. So Icaros, where do we go to next?
Yeah, I'm thinking Valhalla. Except we don't have it.
Yeah, I got it.
You did?
Yeah, I got it for Christmas.
Oh, I forgot that.
No, we still got a few things left to do in Odyssey.
Like what?
Oh, I still gotta beat that Cyclops guy.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Wink.
he burns.
Where's something like the fire resist?
And then I know there were like 2 or 3 achievements I still haven't gotten, but One is that underwater completion thing. Another is finding the Cyclops' eye in the goat. And the other is doing 20 bounties.
Oh, you're gonna say 20 push-ups.
Do 20 push-ups right now.
Spartan war train.
Yeah. But tours are done, so we're gonna call it for the today. See you later, everybody.